I've been sitting here for a while, just looking at this little camera. My grandson set it up for me. He said, "Grandpa, just say something." So here I am, saying something. My name is JD. I'm 87 years old, and I think I'm running out of time. The house is very quiet right now. It's morning. A nurse comes at 11 to check on me. I always tell her I ate breakfast, even when I didn't. Old habit. Telling people what they want to hear. I was born a long, long time ago. My dad worked hard every day. My mom kept the house clean and her feelings to herself. That's what people did back then. You didn't talk about feelings. You just worked. You came home. You went to bed. I thought that was just how life worked. I was wrong. I was married for 41 years to a woman named Dorothy. I called her Dot. She had brown hair when we met, gray hair by the time she was gone. I was there for all of it, right there in the same house. But I was also somewhere else, not in my heart, not really. I wasn't a bad man. I didn't drink, I didn't yell, I didn't leave. I went to work, I came home. I sat at dinner, I watched my kids grow up in the same room as me. But there was always something I didn't open, like a letter you leave on the counter. You say you'll read it later, then one day you look. 6 months have passed. You still haven't opened it. I remember one night. Our daughter Carol was maybe 4 or 5. She had a bad dream. She came into our room crying. Dot got up right away, took her back to bed, sat with her, and I just lay there. I thought I should go in there. I should be the one sitting with her, but I didn't move. I told myself Dot was better at that stuff. I told myself I had an early morning. I told myself a lot of things, all so I could stay in that bed and do nothing. And I have thought about that night many times since. Not just Carol's face, but my own stillness, the way I lay there completely awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to Dot's quiet voice through the wall, soothing our daughter, and me just breathing, doing nothing. That is a strange thing to carry, the memory of your own stillness, when you should have moved. I think about what Carol felt that night, waking up scared, reaching for her parents, and only one of them coming. Children don't forget those things. They don't say anything, but somewhere inside them they make a note, a quiet little note, that says, "When I am scared, one person comes." I don't want to be the parent who didn't come, but I was more times than I can count. Carol is 58 now. She lives far away. She calls on Sundays. The calls are about 15 minutes long. She asks about my health. I ask about her kids. We say love you and hang up. And I sit here wondering, when did we stop knowing what to say to each other? I think I know when. I just didn't notice it happening. She was maybe 12 or 13. There was a school play. She had a small part, 3 lines. She practiced those 3 lines for 2 weeks. I remember her standing in the hallway saying them over and over. The night of the play, I had a work dinner. I told Dot to take photographs. I told Carol I'd watch her next time. There was no next time, not like that, not with those young eyes looking for me in the audience. I don't think Carol ever mentioned it again. That's the thing about children. They absorb the disappointment. They fold it up very small, and they carry it somewhere you can never see, but it stays there. I know that now. It stays there for decades, long after the child becomes an adult, long after the parent becomes old. It stays. There's one afternoon I keep thinking about. It was summer. A long time ago, the kids were playing outside. Dot came and stood in the doorway of my office. I was looking at papers, work stuff. She said very quietly, "JD, do you ever think about us? Just us?" I looked up, I said, "What do you mean?" "Of course I do." She nodded slowly. Then she went back to the kitchen. I went back to my papers. I have thought about that moment maybe 10,000 times, the way she nodded. It wasn't a happy nod. It was the nod of someone who has decided something, all by herself, quickly, without telling you. I didn't follow her into the kitchen. I didn't say, "Wait, tell me what you really mean." I let it go, like I let so many things go. And the sad thing about letting things go is that after a while they stop coming back. I wonder sometimes what she was really asking, not just that afternoon, but across all those years, every quiet dinner, every evening she sat alone on the porch. Every time she laughed at something on the television, and I didn't even look up to see what it was. She wasn't asking for grand things. Dot never asked for grand things. She just wanted me to be in the room, really in the room, not just my body me. And I didn't know how to give that. I'm not sure I even knew it was being asked for. There was one evening. I remember it now very clearly. We had finished dinner. The kids were in bed. The house was quiet. Dot was washing the dishes, and she started humming very softly, some old song I half recognized. And I walked past the kitchen. I heard her humming, and I kept walking to my chair, to my newspaper. If I could go back to that evening, I would stop in that doorway. I would lean against the frame, and I would just listen to her hum. I wouldn't say anything. I would just be there, close enough for her to know I heard her. That's all. That's all it would have taken. Just stopping, just staying. But I kept walking, and the humming stopped, and the kitchen went quiet, and I read my newspaper. Dot passed away 11 years ago. Heart trouble. She was in the hospital 4 days. Then she was gone. Those 4 days. I have never talked about those 4 days with anyone. The first day I sat beside her bed and held her hand. She was conscious, tired. But there, she looked at me in a way she hadn't looked at me in years, very directly, like she was memorizing something. I wanted to say so much, everything that had been sitting in me for decades, but I just held her hand and I said, "You're going to be okay." She smiled, very small, very gentle, the kind of smile that knows something you don't. She passed on the 4th morning, quietly, the way she did most things, and I drove home alone. And I sat in the driveway for a long time, and I thought about that smile, and I understood it then. She already knew. She had already made her peace. She was just waiting for me to say the real thing, and I didn't, even then. Even at the very end, I said, "You're going to be okay," instead of what I should have said. The last real talk we had was maybe 3 years before that. We were sitting on the back porch. She said she was thinking about learning to paint watercolors. I said, "That sounds nice." She looked at me. She waited to see if I would say anything more. I didn't. I poured more iced tea. I watched a bird on the fence. She went inside. She never did learn to paint. Or maybe she did and I just didn't notice. That thought keeps me up at night more than anything else. What else did she want that I never asked about? What other small dream sat in her, waiting for me to say? Tell me more. Tell me everything. I want to know all of it. I never said that, not once in 41 years. After Dot passed, the kids called every day for a while, then every few days, then once a week. Which is fine. That's life. They have their own families now. I understand. My son Raymond came and stayed with me for a week after the funeral. We sat in this living room. We watched baseball. We ordered food. We almost never talked about his mother. One night he started to say something. He said, "Dad, did you and Mom ever?" Then he stopped. "Never mind," he said, and I let him stop. I said, "No what?" But without any real feeling behind it. Not the kind of voice that says I'm here. You can say the thing. He said it's nothing. It's fine. We watched the game. I still don't know what he was going to ask me. I think about it more than I should. I think he was going to ask if we were happy, his mother and I, if the life he grew up watching was a good one, or just a quiet one. And I don't know what I would have said. That's the honest truth. I don't know. Sometimes I think the answer is both. It was good, and it was quiet. And the quiet cost more than I understood at the time. I had a best friend. His name was Gus. We'd been friends since we were 15 years old. 60 years. 60 years of friendship. We went fishing together. We watched games together. I drove him to his cancer treatments when his wife couldn't, every Tuesday for 6 months. Sitting in that waiting room with bad coffee, just being there. There was one Tuesday. It was raining outside. Gus came out of the treatment room looking very tired. He sat down beside me and he said, "JD, you didn't have to do all this." And I said, "Don't be stupid." That was it. That was my answer. Don't be stupid. I have replayed that moment so many times. What I could have said instead. Gus, you would do the same for me. Gus, you're my oldest friend, Gus. Of course I'm here. Where else would I be? But I said, don't be stupid. And we sat in silence, and the rain hit the window, and I drank my bad coffee. He died a few years ago, February, a cold day. I sat in the church at his funeral, and I thought, Gus knew I loved him. He had to know, maybe he did, but he never heard it. Not one single time in 60 years. What would it have cost me? 30 seconds, not even. Just, Gus, you're a good man. I'm glad to know you. That's it. What was I waiting for? I've been trying to understand something about myself. Why did I always hold back the things that mattered most? My dad was that way. His dad was probably that way too. It gets passed down, like old furniture. You put it in your house. You don't question it. You just live around it. Nobody told me, JD, don't say the soft things. Nobody said feelings were weakness. It was quieter than that. It was just the air I grew up breathing. You show love by working hard, by showing up, by not causing trouble. I thought that was enough. For a long, long time, I really thought that was enough. But love that is never spoken out loud starts to feel like nothing to the person receiving it. They can't hear what lives only inside you. They can only hear what you say. And I said very little for a very long time. I think about my father now. He worked 6 days a week his whole life. He put food on the table every single day. He never missed a bill. He never complained. And I can count on one hand the times he looked at me, really looked, like I was someone worth seeing. I swore I would be different. And then I became exactly the same, just in a different house, with different children waiting for the same words that never came. Carol came to visit me last spring. She stayed 4 days. One night we watched a movie together. There was a scene where a father tells his daughter he's proud of her. Carol got very still beside me on the sofa. I almost said it. I was so close. I thought the words right there in my head. I'm proud of you, Carol. I've always been proud of you. But the movie kept going. She laughed at something the moment closed. I didn't open it again. She left on a Sunday morning. We hugged the way we always hugged, one arm. A quick pat, short. She said, "Take care of yourself, Dad." I said, "You too, sweetheart." I watched her drive away. I stood in the driveway in my robe and slippers, and I thought one word. When was I going to stop waiting? When was the moment ever going to be more right than right now? While she was still here, while I was still here, while I still had air in my lungs to make the words with. I went inside, I made coffee, I sat in this chair. I sat here for a long time that morning, just the clock ticking, just the coffee going cold, just me and all the words I had swallowed over 87 years. And I thought about Carol as a little girl, practicing her 3 lines in the hallway, looking for me in the audience, not finding me. And I thought about Carol at 4 years old, crying in the dark dot going to her, me staying still. And I thought about Carol at 58, getting very still on the sofa waiting, still waiting, after all these years, still waiting for her father to say the real thing. I'm not sure what I thought 87 would feel like, but I didn't expect this specific feeling. It's not quite regret. Regret is when you made one wrong choice. This is different. This is looking back and seeing that you made the same choice over and over, 10,000 times, without ever deciding to. I chose the newspaper over the conversation. I chose work papers over my daughter crying at night. I chose quiet comfort over saying something true, and not one of those moments felt like a big choice. Each one felt like nothing, like just another Tuesday, just getting through the day, but all those Tuesdays added up, and they became my life. Nobody tells you that when you are young, that the small moments are the real ones, that the Tuesday evenings matter more than the big holidays, that the way you look up from your newspaper when someone walks in the room, that is the thing they will remember. Not the gifts, not the big gestures, just whether you looked up. I rarely looked up. There's a photo on the shelf. Our 25th wedding anniversary. Dot is in a blue dress. We're both smiling. She looks beautiful. I don't know if I told her that night. I think I said, "You look nice." The way you say it when you're already moving on to something else. If I could go back to that restaurant, sit across from her, look at her the way you look at someone when you know you won't have them forever, I would say so much more than "you look nice." I would say everything. All the things I carried around for years and never put down in front of her. But you don't get to go back to the restaurant. You just sit with the photograph and you hope she knew. Hope is what I have now. I'm not sure it's enough, but it's all that's left. Raymond called last Thursday. He sounded tired. Work. Teenage kids. A lot going on. I listened and then something moved in me. Something I don't usually let move. I said, "Raymond, are you all right? Really all right?" Silence. He said, "Some days are hard, Dad." I said, "I know. I'm sorry it's hard." And then I said, "I love you, son." I should say it more than I do. Long silence. Then he said, "I love you too, Dad." And we talked for another half hour. Longer than we'd talked in years, about nothing much. About everything. About a camping trip from when he was 9 years old that I'd half forgotten. He hadn't forgotten it. Not one bit. He remembered the tent that wouldn't close properly. He remembered the fish we didn't catch. He remembered the hot chocolate I made on a small camping stove. He said it was the best hot chocolate he ever had. I made it from a paper packet. Instant powder and hot water. That's all it was. But he kept it. All these years. He kept that memory like something precious. And I had half forgotten it. That is the thing that broke something open in me. The smallest moments. The ones you think don't count. Those are the ones they keep forever. That was 4 days ago. Best talk I've had in a very long time. All I had to do was ask if he was really okay. That was it. Just the real question. 40 years too late for some people I loved. Not too late for Ray. I want to tell you something I've never said out loud. The loneliness I feel right now. It's not because nobody is there. Carol calls. Raymond calls. The nurse comes at 11. I'm not forgotten. The loneliness is something else. It's knowing that I kept people just far enough away for so many years. That now, near the end, there's a gap between me and everyone I love. A gap I built slowly, without meaning to. I can knock a few boards loose now, like I did with Raymond. But I can't undo the whole thing, not in the time I have left, and that is something you have to sit with. The understanding that some gaps cannot be fully closed. Not because people don't want to close them, but because time ran out before you found the courage. I have courage now, at 87, when most of the people I should have used it for are already gone. That is perhaps the saddest thing I know. If Dot were sitting across from me right now, in that chair, I'd look at her for a while first, just to know she was there. Then I'd say, "I see you, Dot. I think I always saw you, even when I didn't show it. I'm sorry I kept so much inside. You deserved more of me." I don't know if she'd believe me. I'd like to think she would. I'd like to think she already knew, and was just waiting all those years for me to catch up. Outside my window there's a garden, overgrown now. I can't manage it anymore. But every spring, Dot's roses come back, pink ones. Along the back fence, she planted them years ago, and every single year without fail they come back, without anyone asking them to. I look at them every morning. I think that's her somehow, coming back still patient with me, more patient than I deserved. Some mornings I take my coffee to the window, and I just stand there, looking at those roses, and I talk to her, out loud, just quietly, just a few words. I tell her about Raymond's call. I told her he remembered the hot chocolate. I think she would have smiled at that. I tell her the garden is getting wild. I tell her I'm sorry I can't fix it. I tell her the roses are beautiful anyway. And then I go sit in my chair, and the day begins. And it is enough. Just barely. But enough. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just an old man named JD sitting in a chair, turning his life over like a stone found in a pocket, looking at all the parts he didn't look at closely enough. My grandchildren might watch this someday. James, Sophie. Little Max. I want them to know their grandpa had a whole world inside him. He just didn't always know how to share it. He's sharing it now. A little late, but sharing it. And I want them to know one more thing. The world inside you, it is worth sharing. Don't wait until you are 87 to open it. Don't wait until the people you love are photographs on a shelf. Don't wait until the garden is overgrown and the chair across from you is empty. Share it now, while the room is still full, while the people are still there, while there is still time to be truly known by someone. That is the only thing I wish I had done differently, not the big things. Just that, just being known, and letting myself know others. It's almost 11. The nurse will be here soon. I'll tell her I ate breakfast. Maybe today I'll actually eat it first. Don't wait. Not because I'm telling you to, but because I know what waiting looks like from the end. It looks like a blue dress you forgot to compliment. It looks like a question your son almost asked. It looks like 60 years of fishing trips with a man you never once told you loved. It looks like a school play you missed. It looks like a doorway you never walked through at night. It looks like a paper cup of instant hot chocolate that your son kept in his heart for 40 years. It looks like a woman humming in the kitchen, and you just kept walking. Say the real thing while the person is still in the room, while you still can. That's all JD has. That's everything. If something JD said today stayed with you, drop it in the comments. Not a long thing. Just one word if that's all you have. Maybe the name of someone you've been meaning to call. Maybe just the word soon. And if this story felt true to you, share it with one person. Not to teach them anything, just so they don't feel alone in it. JD would like that.